Namaste. Welcome to my Sacral Chakra portal opening class, where we're going to be discussing law of attraction, law of resonance, and three problems that are particularly an issue in the human conscious collective in regards to feeling powerless, that negative core belief of feeling powerless, and how to turn that into creativity and power by activating the sacral chakra portal. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my chat so that I can connect to you. Give me just a second. Just pay attention to what you're saying. Make our class even more powerful. All right, good. I can see chat, so we're good. And I am paying attention to the chat. So for anyone, if I happen to have any sound issues, Google Hangouts, and I might be switching, for my Patreon classes, I might be switching for these classes to Crowdcast because Google just stops me and then you can't hear me for no reason. It's happened in 3 different classes now. If that happens now, please just give me a little note in chat and let me know so that I can do it. I know Zoom is better, but it's something else for someone else to have to learn. And most people who follow me are like me. They're not technically efficient. So when we have to learn new things, we're all like, but at least we're all like, together, right? I think it's an empath thing. We're operating on the right side of our brains. And then the left sides are like, we don't really know what to do because you don't use us over here. So, I have brought a bunch of tools. This is a very quick class. For those of you who are watching, we do these classes anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week, depending upon what level of Patreon you're on. I recently started doing these classes last year. And I've always been doing classes on aurareader.com, and you can always find them there and replays of them as well for your own time. But on Patreon, we do them live, so you get interaction. I pull up the chat and I pay attention to people, and we talk about the material, discuss it together, and that's what we do. So if anyone's watching who isn't currently a member of Patreon, to be able to get access to these classes, they're incredibly cheap. This one is like $13. So anyway, and that's not just this class. It includes this class and an Ask Pamela Anything. No, wait a minute. Live Q&A, Ask Pamela Anything, and something else. 3 different live interactions, and then 1 to 2 channelings, so that you have different tiers of what you can choose based upon what you want to spend monthly on these subscriptions. And you can, again, find that if you're not in Patreon currently, you can follow me there. It's patreon.com, patreon.com/Pamela Aaralyn. This is just the most basic of the classes we teach. So this level is basic for anyone who's having problems with creativity in their lives. So about the sacral chakra portal, I always want to call it the sacred chakra portal, because to me, this is all about divine femininity and masculinity, your movement and your connection to your own divine masculine and divine feminine within you. So I kind of get a little bit slipped up in my words there with sacral chakra. I want to call it the sacred chakra, right? So, okay, so I've got 1 channel message to share from Archangel Michael in terms of the how on this. I've got something from A Course in Miracles that I want to share. Couple different mantras from the Elohim Collective. That's primarily who I channel. That's why you notice on my banner it says Voice of the Elohim. And for those of you who don't know what that is, the Elohim are a Christ-conscious collective, and all the beings that you continue to see me channel on YouTube are the Elohim. So it's that plus, oh my goodness, this is just book number 1 that I wrote, and you see, this was just what happened in 2 months. It's like already like 8 different chapters worth of stuff. We teach from this material primarily, and this material is also being published, so we're getting the editing done currently, so you'll be able to get that real soon for a very cheap price, downloadable and in book form, whenever you want. So that's coming up too. All right, so let's start with why this happens in terms of not really being the powerful creator that you want to be. Because when you start there and you understand why you have these blocks, then you can move it forward quicker. All right, we have until 2:30. We're starting right on time. Let's breeze right through it, and then I'll answer your questions. So it's lack. The negative core belief of powerlessness creates a lack mentality in the current human conscious collective, and it's lack of three things. Lack of human connection, which is synonymous with lack of connection to your higher self, which we're going to be addressing that, how to connect and hear your guides better so that you can trust, which is problem number 2, lack of trust, acceptance and flow. That involves two things, judgments and attachments. So if you judge anything or anyone, including yourself, and I know for some of you who are into more of the dualistic teachings in the spiritual communities, you understand based upon shadow work that it's next to impossible not to judge. But in my teachings, what the Elohim has brought to me is that it is possible not to judge. And that's actually where we're going with this material. Surprise. To release judgments and attachments so that we can trust, which brings us into acceptance. That's what is missing in the human conscious collective. We believe that we need to step forward, knowing where we're going, knowing what's happening, being able to define things at all times in order to be creative. We believe that we need to know. We believe that we need to know almost everything, or we don't do it. It's kind of a fear of lack of success and a fear of success. So that those two problems fall into the second problem in humanity, which is lack of trust. So if you don't feel connected, then you don't trust, then you don't accept, then you don't flow. And then finally, number 3, the biggest problem in this lack mentality is stagnation. And that's that part of the lack. So when all of these things happen to a human conscious collective, then you feel that you are stuck. Do you know what I mean? So many people come to me and they say, I am stuck. That's the biggest thing that I hear from people who sit with me in one-on-one sessions and in my mentorship programs. When you're trying to develop your spiritual abilities and find a common track to your life purpose, you're like, I don't know where to begin. I'm stuck. When you stop saying that, language is key, according to what the Elohim are teaching you today. When you stop saying I am stuck, you get a reference point for what it might feel to be riding that roller coaster of creativity, because that's what it feels like. You're going with the ups and the downs, and there are no rails. There's nothing to hang on to. And when that stagnation, many people say, well, I'm stuck because I don't feel motivated. Yeah, that's a big deal. So let's start with that. With lack of connection, here's what I wrote down for you. It's a tool that I've been using that the Elohim taught me around age 7, when I was old enough to really understand and practice it. And here it is. It means connection. If you're feeling lack of connection, if you're feeling you cannot connect to your higher self or others, normally it's synonymous. Because there is no such thing in the Elohim teachings of separation. So when you cannot connect to others, it's because you are not connecting properly to your own heart and to yourself. So technique number 1, I just call this my heart connection technique, and it connects you to the universal heartbeat, connects you to all consciousness, which is universal heartbeat and your own heartbeat. So basically what you're going to do is close your eyes and place your hand over your heart. And you're just going to breathe and put your feet on the floor and notice the flow of your breath. And then you're going to say something very specific. It is an I am invocation. Here it is. I invoke the I am in me to connect. I give myself permission to feel, accept, and if necessary, release all that no longer serves me. Step number 1, if something's blocking your way, you gotta release it. And when you invoke the I am, it's like giving your higher self permission to, number 1, feel you, connect to God within, accept what you're feeling. Validation is always first and foremost in healing. And then finally, if you no longer need it, you have to release what you no longer need. Okay? Secondly, you are going to then connect to the element of air. Now we're going to talk about step number 1 and how to connect better, and that involves connecting through all the elements. But we're going to start today with air because, in my opinion, breath is life, and it is the most important thing. So here is, you're not going to expect this at all. Here is my technique. And I know that you think that I'm going to ask you to breathe and focus on your breath again. I'm not. That's not what we're going to do. I know. I'm actually going to have you breathe just once very deeply. And then I want you to, not yet, wait, I'm going to explain the process first. Once I explain the process, we'll do it together. Breathe in very deeply and then hold your breath. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold it for just a few seconds, anywhere from 3, 5, 6, 10 seconds. Don't faint, please. 10 seconds tops. And you're going to begin what's called the self-inquiry process while you're holding your breath. While you're doing that, you're going to ask, who am I? Now, normally your ego is going to butt in and say, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a healer, I'm a this. Okay, if that happens, just say, to whom do these thoughts arise? This self-inquiry process is from Sri Ramana Maharshi, who I've been talking to for a couple of years very strongly. When I was ready, he finally started talking to me. And he's an interesting one. And he believes that if you ask this question, it is the deepest question that you can possibly ask yourself. And all thoughts that need to be released go poof, unblock immediately. And then when you breathe in again, okay, once all the thoughts go poof, you're going to breathe in and you're going to ask yourself, what do I really want to feel? And normally that word that will come is trust. Sometimes you'll say allowance. But either way, normally the first thing would be trust. So if it's trust for you, if not, pay attention to your own heart. If another word comes up, as long as the word is a feeling state, not an action state, you're not looking for a thought or a mentality. You are looking for a heart-based word, okay? And it needs to be one word, no long sentence, that's ego again, just one word. Ask yourself, what color is that? And then when you breathe in again, breathe in through the top of your head, and you're going to feel a little tingling here at the top. It feels like when your guides are talking and there's just a little tingling, or someone touching your hair if you've never experienced this. Breathe into the top of your head and imagine, what color is trust? For me, it's pink, because trust feels like love, self-love in particular. So for me, when I breathe in, it's going to be a big breath, because you've been holding your breath anyway. So you're going to need a big one. You're going to put one finger over your left nostril or whatever feels comfortable. Not going to work if you have any issues there. Don't medically freak yourself out if you have a cold. But you're going to put one hand over your left nostril and breathe in that pink. And then when you exhale, switch. Exhale all the way out. And I want you to imagine it going all the way back down your spine. Now, for me, often it'll take a little detour and stop in the heart for a few minutes and expand in the heart. And if you feel the need to ground it all the way down to the floor, every time you breathe in again, you're going to switch that process in, out, back through the left nostril, and it's going to go down a little bit further. So sometimes you'll feel that the breath needs to go all the way down into the floor. And then sometimes you're going to feel that it needs to stop and rest in a certain chakra system. And when it does, if it needs to stop and be exhaled fully into that chakra system, then you are going to expand that chakra and watch it like a wheel, spinning and expanding and spinning and expanding and spinning and expanding, and let it go. Whatever speed that you feel is appropriate. It doesn't matter if it's slow or fast, just trust. Someone asked the question, how do I know the word that comes out is something I put in my mind? Well, you're connected to source. So when you do the I am, you're going to have to trust, especially if you use the word trust. That's one of the best ones. That's why I use that as an example, because from here on out throughout these processes, you're going to trust more. I know that I'm asking you to trust, but if it's a long phrase, generally that's ego. If it is a word that is associated with emotions and heart, and if it's a feeling state, generally that is a higher self word. That is something that you want. Okay. All right. And then finally, in step number 2 with trust, here is how you get past trust. A really sweet colleague of mine wrote this down from a teaching last summer. It was at Camp I Am Love, and I was an instructor there, and so was she. And I was teaching about creativity and how to open up the power of, seventh dimensional, sixth and seventh dimensional manifestation. And this is the phrase that we use in our mantra, because for number 2 and number 3, your ego is going to try to stop you in your connections. So with this is what she wrote down. Why not? Can you guys see it? Why not? So the problem is, for problem number 2, lack of trust and lack of motivation, your ego is going to try to convince you, when you are thinking about law of attraction and law of resonance and what you want to create after you do step 1, normally you'll go into trust and thinking about what you want to create and why and how, and your ego starts to go in, well, I don't have money and I don't trust it. What if this doesn't work? And who am I to do these things? And the word is, why not? Why not? Why not you? Why wouldn't it work other than lack of money? Most people in life start out, with lack of money. So that, if we're going to count that as a problem, lack of money is a problem in the entire human conscious collective, with the exception of maybe 3% of the population right now. So, that's the way the third dimension works. So we start out as that way, for the same reason that in your creative mastery that people start out in kindergarten. In kindergarten, you don't necessarily know how to read, but you're practicing and enunciating the syllables anyway, right? And then you go to first grade, and then you go to second grade, and there are different skills that you are learning. And money is the icing on the cake, the reward that comes from that. So if you start these practices thinking about money is the tool that you use to till your garden. So you don't, when you're trying to plant vegetables that you need for sustenance, you don't say, I am planting money, right? Money is the tool that gets you where you need to go to plant more vegetables. Maybe your tiller is broken and you need another one. Money helps with that, right? That will get you past number 2, fear of success. Well, why not have success? Why not? Can you think of any good reason to have success? To not have success? Why not? Why have it? Why not have it? So why not? And then step number 3, motivation. So many people have come to me and said, with motivation, it is something that I need to have. And if I did have it, then I could be able to trust in order to start thinking about the law of attraction and the law of resonance, to start putting the thoughts in my head to dictate the next most believable step in my creative mastery, and to open up my blocks more if I just had motivation and enthusiasm and energy. That's actually not true. I want you to go to YouTube either now or later if you feel like really getting a good grasp on, a connection with what I'm saying. At some point today, I want you to go over YouTube and look up this phrase: motivation is bullshit. There is an interview. I'm going to say it again. Motivation is bullshit. There is a lovely interview by a cute little blonde with a bob. I don't know her name. And I didn't even listen to the interview except for the first thing she said: motivation is bullshit. And I listened to her maybe for about 5 or 6 minutes after that. And I psychically knew everything that she had to say was absolutely spot on. And she's not a spiritual teacher. This was a celebrity. This was someone who had an interview by a celebrity as well. So you're going to have fun with that. This is a normal person. So in terms of, as normal as a celebrity can be, let's put it frankly, motivation is bullshit. So for step number 3, you need to wipe it off of your plate and drop attachments, judgments, and expectations of yourself and of how others receive, observe, and perceive you. I'll repeat that again. Drop expectations and attachments towards yourself, what you think you should be doing if you have motivation, and expectations and attachments towards what other people, how they perceive, observe, and receive you. Okay? So I know that that's really, really hard to do, but if you want to get unstuck, which is, one of the problems here is stagnation and motivation. We're talking about the third problem currently with the lack in the human conscious collective. What you want to do is release the belief that you need motivation and enthusiasm and energy to do things, because it is, I'll repeat, say it with me, motivation is bullshit. You don't need it. It also comes as a byproduct the more you really prove and evidence to yourself that you can be successful and creative. And successful is not money, by the way. Successful is how you feel about what you're doing along the path. And you're feeling really, really great about it in time, the more it is proven to you, right? Okay. And here's another thing to get past problems number 2, problem 3 in these blocks in the human conscious collective with the sacral chakra. This is from page number 42 of A Course in Miracles. And it says, each day, each hour, each instant, I am choosing what I want to look upon, the sounds I want to hear. Sound is big at ACIM. The witnesses to what I want to be truth for me, right? So what that means is you get to choose everything you're observing, everything you're looking upon. Sound is important in Course in Miracles because what you hear and how you really discern it and observe what you're hearing and seeing, what you're looking upon, as they said in this verse, those are the witnesses, the reflections, if you will, to what is truth for you. And you get to choose that. You are not a victim of law of attraction. I'll say it again. You're not a victim of law of attraction. Law of attraction is taught in a way, and this is why I don't do much law of attraction these days, because it can be taught in a way that feels incredibly powerless. Because it's like, let me go create my vision board, right? When we all watched The Secret, that's how we felt. We were like, oh, that person started with a vision board of a Lamborghini and a mansion. We're going to talk more about the universal law of specificity, which is more reasonable towards opening up the sacral chakra and becoming the manifestor you want to be because you actually believe it. Yay! When you actually believe what you're visualizing and then you attach a feeling signature and feeling state that is true for you, then and only then can it happen, right? So what you're visualizing has to be really believable to you. And how do you do that? You ask yourself, from where I stand, what is the next most believable step? I know I can't, obtain that mansion, that Lamborghini and all that stuff right now, but how do I want to feel first and foremost? If I had it, if I had all those things, how would I feel? Why do I want those things? Why not have those things? Why not me? How do I want to feel? And then once we have the feeling signature involved in that, we want to ask ourselves, well, what is the next most believable step? It's obvious that I don't have that right now. What can cause me to be more free towards having that and more open towards creating that? What is the next most believable step? Yeah. That'll help too. And then finally, the last thing I have to say before 2:30 rolls around and before I answer your questions about how to be a powerful manifester, I'm going to read from my book of Elohim and the manual that they've given me that we've channeled through. And it was Archangel Michael that actually came about with this teaching. And he speaks for himself. Here you go. We are speaking to you. And you often say, I am not connected. You ask for signs. You ask to speak with us. You ask about happiness often, and you say to us, we simply seek peace. We simply seek happiness. And believe us when we say, if that were true, you definitely would not be here. He means Earth. Happiness comes along eventually with much growth and expansion as you go towards the goals of ascension, when you become aware that you can become content in any situation, no matter how difficult. I know that's hard, but happiness is not a big excitement or a rush of celebratory energy. It is actually a safety, a contentment, a calm space. It's not actually very exciting. Surprise. We're going to continue. Even your scientists have observed that the happiest people on the face of your planet are the ones who have endured the most struggle. Be content with where you are, and no matter where you are, remember this too shall pass. The only constant in your ascension is change. Please be safe with change. In the moment that you trust, you flow into the graceful states of gratitude and eventually contentment and eventually motivation in all situations. Do not attach to any one moment, for that places a ceiling over your creativity. And he went like this right now when I did that. Attachment is opposite of all that we wish to teach you. We beseech you to take the next 24, 48, or 72 hours. This is our challenge. Pay attention to the ways the Elohim speak to you. We are not loud, but we are clear. Everything you hear is a communication. Everything you see, everything you feel that catches your eye in any given moment. What if you could stop and pay attention to the deeper message? Receive the message that you feel and the message that you innately know. What if everything that you experienced was not a string of mundane events? What if it were not possible to be disconnected from us or from yourselves? Everything that you experience is pertinent. Our messages are so obvious, but you often say when we speak to you in these synchronicities and signs, oh, that was good. I'll put that on the back burner. That seems like a subtle little message. I'll deal with that later. That was a great idea. I'll write it down. I'll remember, and I will come back after I handle all the chores of being human, after I finish my work for the day, after I make more money, after I get some sleep, after I get a meal in my belly, after, later. The time is now. Trust and flow happens now, not later. We beseech you, pay attention to us through your own knowledge and intuitions and feeling states. Anything else is external. You may not always see us, hear us, smell us, but you may get a knowingness innately that we are here, or you will feel that we are here, and that is the deepest truth. Anything else is a human sense. Pay attention to us within these feeling states and intuitions, and as you have called them, signs, for the next 24, 48, or 72 hours. We will now give examples of how we speak to you. The words that come out of the mouths of your children. If you pay attention to your devices and your social media, perhaps it will be the next post you see. If you listen to music on your radios, the next song that comes on will contain a striking lyric or a familiar your next mail, that is us. If you check your postal mail, perhaps the word on top of the envelope. The next book you read, the next chapter, what is in it for you? The next person who interrupts you, do not brush them aside. Something that they have stated is a message from us and from your higher selves. This is more human and logical and grounded, and less of what you believe the angelics represent to you. He just gave me this image of an angel without wings, in some Levi's, and like a ratty, dirty white t-shirt, like he'd been working in the garage. When he was barefooted and he looked kind of unkempt. And he was like, yeah, it doesn't look, I don't have wings and I don't have all this. It's not so fancy and farcical, right? Angels really aren't what humans think. I'll continue. Pardon my interruption. I just had to share what he gave me in my head. All right. So the next person who interrupts you, do not brush them aside. Something they have stated is a message from us and your higher selves. What if everything were relevant? What if everything was important right now? Everything you think about, any thought that comes into your head comes from your heart. What if you could connect to those thoughts when they are ideas, not criticisms? What if within the next moment, the ideas in your mind and the feelings in your heart were us speaking to you to say, stop, do this now, not later. And if it is not possible to do this now, write it down and do it as soon as possible. And do not forget, this is the path that will change your life to be powerful manifestors. All right. And then one little message, feel free to screenshot this. Can you see it? This says, you are divinely loved. I brought this out today because it was just something that my higher self says to me and says to others that I love all the time and says to the world all the time. She's saying to people, you are divinely loved. And this is the biggest, love is the biggest powerful creative force that there is. So I took that, you are divinely loved, and I made it into this. And at the time I was making it for my partner, but I also was observing angel wings and how the energy, I don't really believe they're wings, but like energetic tendrils, if you will. and energy coming from divine heart. And I was writing down what universal heartbeat looked like, and see all those hearts within hearts within hearts. That always reminds me to remind others and myself that we are divinely loved. So that is the biggest way to block out of get out of any block, is that. Yeah. All right. We have 2 minutes to answer any of your questions. I'm looking through them, but I don't see any right now. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see any questions. I see a lot of confirmations. Thank you for listening. How do I feel about the information Marina Jacoby speaks of? I don't know her, so I can't have a feeling. I don't have a particular knowing one way or the other. Did Yeshua have tats? I've never seen one on him. Yeah, I've noticed he changes his projection based upon what people believe. So, all right, if you've enjoyed this class, there are plenty more that are like these. And what's fun about Patreon and what I teach over there is that you get to vote on it. So whatever level you are, whatever tier you are over there, with however much you choose to put towards patronage, you get to vote on everything. So within, with the exception of the live Q&As and Ask Pamela Anything sessions, which is all about you asking and me just sitting here answering and creating a class based upon your questions, which is also fun. We do that twice a month. The rest of the month is classes that you actually vote upon in advance. I put polls up and I'm like, what do you want to talk about? And then you give me a bunch of suggestions, and then I create a poll from those suggestions. And then I'm like, all right, here's the poll of every single thing you wanted. And we put like as many, and the polls there are huge, so it can put up to 25 things that you want. So the first 25 people, yeah, that's how that works for me. And then we create the class based upon what gets the highest vote. And the same thing for channelings. We do anywhere from 3 to 4 channelings, and sometimes bonuses there a month as well. And we vote upon those as well. So all the beings, all the polls there are from suggestions, a post that I make where I say, who do you want to hear from? And then I take all those answers and create a poll. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So tomorrow on Patreon, we are channeling the Human Conscious Collective. And that's a really special one for me because normally it's Elohim and other beings that aren't human right now. And I wanted to hear from the Human Conscious Collective. And that will be really, really interesting. And then on Monday, we are channeling Dolores Cannon. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And it looks like the way the polls are going that we might be channeling the Dolphin and Whale Collective after that. If the polls come through right now, they're very high and high voting towards the Dolphin and Whale Collective. So that's a lot of fun. Yeah. So I put about 2 of these publicly on YouTube so that people can kind of get an awareness. And this is the second one that's been public on YouTube. And once we get off here, it will be unlisted again. So you won't have access to this again. But because this is Patreon material. And normally I will do anyone about once, twice a month where I'll say, okay, I'm going to take a class that might be a bonus class or a regular class, and you won't ever know which one. And it'll be just, we're going to put this on YouTube today and see how it goes, and then later take it off. So it's kind of just for you to get an idea of what I do, how I teach, and if you feel that I as a teacher would be aligned towards teaching you. So if you want to come join us, we teach about a lot of things, and you'll have a lot of fun. Again, it's patreon.com/Pamela Aaralyn. Yay! I can't wait to see you tomorrow for the Human Conscious Collective, and on Monday at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time over there for Dolores Cannon. Guess who's interviewing me for both of them? The lovely Candace Crawl Goldman. I love her so much. She's an amazing interviewer. So, all right, now we gotta go. It was a lot of fun. It really was. I love you. Bye.